Hey guys, what's going on? Mcoc here, and today we have the update of the tier list for March 2023. And I didn't do one last month, so I'm sorry about that. I just got too busy. Also got a little lazy, didn't feel like doing it. So I figured covering everything that happened in the last 2 months in one update would be fine. I just won't go as in depth on the new champs because there's videos coming out that do a great job of that. I don't think you guys are really here for that either. I do want to start this tier list by saying that this is all my opinion based on my experience playing the game. It's just how I rank the champs, generally speaking, across all of Mcoc. Everyone's experience is different, therefore there's no such thing as a truly objective tier list. So if you guys disagree with my opinion, that's fine. We all have opinions. So there's that. I also made some changes to the key. I added a color for the newly buffed champs and the new champs. That way you can see them perfectly fine on the tier list. Just at a glance, you could easily find them. You don't have to search for their name. It's the best way to find them. I also put a promotion emoji as well as a demotion emoji. And then if I make a video and I'm like super cautious on where I'm placing the champ, they get italics and that like permanent marker font. So Kate Bishop and Viv Vision, this is like super early on them because I actually have yet to test them myself. I actually wanted to hold off on making this tier list till then, but I watched the deep dives and I think I got a pretty solid opinion on where they're going to land. So I think the spots are good. But without further ado, let's start talking about the changes to the tier list. So that's Cassie Lang. She's the first champ we want to talk about starting the science class. I think she's going to be up there in like the top tier of the science class, and that's a huge tier. It's like the largest top tier out of any other class because every champ in that is like absolutely amazing. So I think the science definitely is one of the strongest classes now in the game, which is crazy to say, but Cassie Lang is awesome. She's going to be an amazing champ in Battlegrounds, really solid two-way if she's awakened in, for defense. She doesn't need her awakening though, in my opinion. She's perfectly fine without it, although if you plan on using her a lot, the more SIGs the better, but generally speaking, she's fine unawakened. So yeah, I think that's where she's going to land. She's got really cool utility. She's poison and shock immune as well as buff immune. She has a bunch of power stings, taunt. She has guaranteed crits on the special too. She's just really solid. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not going to go too in depth on these champs, but next up we have OG Hulk. He recently got buffed. The only change that happened to him between the beta and when the actual update comes out is the stun penalty for the duration on the special 1 stun went from 40% to 60%, so the stun loop isn't as long as it used to be, which is fine in my opinion because it was a little busted, and in that current state he was with the 40% penalty to future stun durations from the special 1. If they kept that, I think his damage would have gone down, so I'm glad that they just got rid of that, made the stun loop harder without sacrificing anything else. And he also got some really massive degen resistance, so I think OG Hulk's going to be a decent two-way in Battlegrounds, although you need him awakened for that because then he requires a counter to prevent his unstoppable when entering Gamma Rage. So that's kind of where I see it. I think OG Hulk is perfect there. Next up in the skill class, we made a little swap. Kingpin is now the top instead of Nick Fury. I think Kingpin's generally more useful, but in matches where you can bleed the opponent, Nick Fury still is the edge in my opinion. I just think if like a new roster or a new champ, or not new champ, a new summoner got Kingpin would carry them further than Nick Fury would. But we also have Baron Zemo, who I bumped up. I gave him the Karate Mike emoji because Karate Mike's been doing some pretty crazy stuff with Zemo in War, and it's not just like this power back boost special 2 root lock bullshit. He's actually really good. He's got a lot of utility. He can have full shutdown on defensive ability accuracy with 4 special 1s. He can decelerate the opponent with 2 roots. And he's got a lot of synergies that make him super useful and easier to use. So I hope Mike keeps posting videos because he sends me everything he does with Zemo, and like it's just wild. So I think Zemo will age insanely well. I hope that the rest of the community sees it because He's a bit more nuanced than the rest of the people above him and below him, but he's really good in my opinion. He's going to age insanely well. So next up in the skill class, we have Kate Bishop, and I watched her deep dive, and I think this is where she'll land, and I think it's actually a really safe spot, because essentially everyone from Black Panther to like Killmonger, I think, are pretty equal, and like you could use them interchangeably, and she's gonna be great for that. I think she's gonna be awesome. She's got perfect release like the original Hawkeye, but she also has true accuracy on all specials. She has cold snap, trick arrows. She also has a new caltrops arrow, so she puts a caltrops on the opponent every time they dash forward or backwards. They get instant bleed damage. She's got a lot of cool utility. She's got high block proficiency too. I think she's bursty enough to be useful in battlegrounds based on what I saw from the deep dive, but she also has a really high ceiling for ramping. So I think she's going to age well as well, like Zemo. But it's still super early on, so I don't want to like put her super high and regret it later. I think right where she's at is going to actually be perfect, based on what I've seen on the deep dive and what I've read on her champion kit description. So I think that's a good spot for her. I put the skill icon because she doesn't need her awakening, but it makes her a lot easier to use. But you can make up for that with skill, in my opinion, by pausing her debuffs and stuff. Her SIG allows her to pause when striking the opponent's block, which I think is going to be pretty useful. And like if I'm going to use Kate Bishop, I'm going to want her at SIG 200. That's just me. But yeah, the mutant class, no changes at all in there. I think everything stayed the same. I just removed some value shift emojis. Just to be clear, like the value shifts are not promotions or demotions. They're just like, hey, this champ is a little more important than they were before because of this. But it doesn't grant like a promotion or a demotion. But tech class, we have Future Ant-Man, and I put him super high up. And I think he's a bit misunderstood at the moment. I recently got him as a 6-star, so I hope to clear up some misunderstandings on his kit because I think he's insanely powerful. He's not just a defender, he's not just damage, he's got a lot of utility, and his power control is pretty darn good if you know how to use him and utilize it. So I don't want to spoil too much because I do want to have some views on my Ant-Man videos when I post them, but I think he's going to be great. Ultron got a slight promotion. I've probably held off on that for a little too long. I think he's super useful. His SIG makes him essentially like have 4 immunities. Not really immunities, but he shrugs off Incinerate and I think Shock a lot faster than anyone else. And he's also bleed and poison immune, so he's just really good. Guardian got a little demotion. I think I just had him too high to begin with, but it did warrant the demotion emoji. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's worse or anything. I think I had him too high. I think he's like in line with Nebula through Viv, who we'll get to in a second. But like Guardian's still a beast. I think he's like falling back a bit. Hopefully if people think I'm wrong, they let me know and post some videos on him because I haven't seen him used much as of late. So next up we have Viv Vision. The best way I can kind of describe her is like a tech Corvus, if that makes sense, because like she's got a set amount of charges through her armor ups, I believe is how it works, and then if you run out of those armor ups or her currency, you kind of have to like re-ramp is kind of how I gathered it from her. But she's got a plethora of utility. She's bleed immune, poison immune. She can place passive heal box. She can place suppression. She phases on parry instead of blocking. So when you perform a well-timed block, you don't block, you phase, which is super useful. You can use that to get around annoying special attacks if you can parry a hit of it. And yeah, it's just really useful. She also has a prowess removal counter. Like her heavy attack, it can remove up to 3 prowess, and that ramps her up as well. So I think she's going to be pretty good. She's also pretty annoying to fight because she power drains the opponent on basic hits. So if you're not using Gallon or Hulkling or someone immune to power drain, you're going to have kind of a rough time. But I think she's going to be pretty good. That's where I have her with my early thoughts based on what I saw in the deep dive. And then in the Cosmic class, we don't have any changes except for Cersei and Gore. Cersei, I've seen Karate Mike and Bitter Steel. I don't know if you guys know who Bitter Steel is. If you don't, check out his channel. It's in the description. I'll have a link to it. They've been destroying stuff with Cersei in Battlegrounds, and I think she's been overlooked for a while, and she does something that a lot of champs can't really do, and like it's a unique ability. She gains a glancing buff, and that reduces the ability actually of things that would be performed while striking her by 85%. This is on block, this is on, you know, basic attacks, special attacks, and she also gains a regen via her sig when struck while glancing. She's just really good, and like not a lot of champs have that utility that she has. Like regular Ant-Man has that with his glancing debuff, and I love the like classic Ant-Man is what I'm going to call him, Science Ant-Man. I do think he could be promoted soon, but we'll see. I've used him in war quite a bit and had some success, but yeah, Cersei does stuff that's unique, and I think that warrants a promotion. And then Gore, he got buffed, and like I still don't think he's insanely great. I think he's good, and he's great where he works, but overall he's not insanely easy to use. I tried using him in Alliance Quest, and it was rough. You know, so I'd love to see him used in like stressful situations where you have a hard time keeping up your buffs. Because like my main issue with him still is like he's stressful to play, but when the opponent plays into you and the nodes aren't too restrictive, he's going to be good. So he could cook in Battlegrounds, he could cook in like Abyss type content if that comes out in the future. But as of right now, I think he's just going to sit right there, and I don't think that's a horrible spot for him. I don't think the champs above him are horrible at all. The Cosmic class is super strong. Like that top 20 is really solid. Like Gamora cooks in Battlegrounds. Vision Arcus is amazing, super underrated. Like I think it's a good spot for Gore. Next up in the Mystic class, we promoted Absorbing Man because I was super conservative with him starting out. I didn't want people to like immediately go crazy and rank him up, but after these 2 months of him, you know, living in the contest, he's wild. He is exactly what the Mystic class needed, and I think if you don't need a Mystic champ who has like buff control or power control, you know, Absorbing Man might be your top option as a Mystic champ to use. So yeah, he's really good. He's got 2 modes, Magma mode and Uru mode. Uru gives him like large physical resistance, bleed immunity, shock immunity. Magma gives him large energy resistance, gives him Incinerate, Cold Snap, Frostbite immunity. And you can pair that all with the Eye Bomb and Eye Hulk synergy that gives him poison immunity. So yeah, he's just really good. He's like super useful. He's got the damage to back it up too. He's just awesome. So Mojo is promoted, and like that's a similar situation with Cersei. I promoted Mojo because he does stuff that other Mystics don't really do, and that's his form of buff control, which I think is really strong and underrated. You know, Mojo reduces the duration of buffs, so he can get around nodes that have anti-nullify or removal of nodes or of buffs, and it just makes him insanely useful for stuff like that. Like he's a great Hulkling counter. You know, any Cosmic champ who has tons of buffs that aren't permanent or indefinite, Mojo will cook. And at Sig 200, he's like super strong. I've seen Karate Mike take some crazy stuff with Mojo in Battlegrounds, and it's not even ideal matches. He's just playing the prompts, getting stuff done, and you know, it's a good time for him. Next up we have America Chavez. She recently got buffed, and I think that's a good spot for her right there between Dragon Man and Sim Supreme. I think Black Widow through Spidey Supreme are pretty equal. You could use them interchangeably depending on nodes, situations, etc., etc. But America Chavez, her ceiling was made more accessible because they reduced the parallel dimension requirement for max damage or max ramp from 9 to 6. That's also accounting for buffs as well. So she could ramp up insanely faster, so the rate of her ramp has been increased, as well as the amount of benefit you get for each buff on the opponent or parallel dimension you have. So she's just really strong. I think she's going to be a really solid 2-way in Battlegrounds. She's like a nuke option in my opinion. But I think that's where we're ending it today. I'm not going super in-depth on everything else, you know, because there are videos that do that a lot better than I could in this tier list video. I'll have a pinned comment in the pinned comment down below with links that I'm like referring to. So like some Cersei stuff with Bitter Steel and Mike, I'll drop that down there. Kate Bishop and Viv Vision's deep dives, I'll drop them down below. But yeah, I think I'm happy with where those two are sitting. I don't think they're gonna shift too far up, too far down. I think the tier I have them in the great tier is probably where they can live in the future. But you know, I didn't want to rush this tier list out, but I also wanted to get it done because I have a busy month this month. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. If you guys have any like feedback on how to make this tier list look better, easier to digest, let me know. I've been trying to make it better. It's you know, it's a lot different than the first iteration, so I'm kind of happy with where it's landed and how all the champs are ranked and the colors and the, you know, the whole you know, vibe the tier list gives off. But yeah, so just let me know if you guys have any like feedback on it in the comments. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. So without further ado, I'm going to end the video. So peace out, guys. See you guys. Be good to each other.